ride, teach, inspire. This is the Dropping Next podcast, brought to you by the Canadian Association of Snowboard Instructors. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dropping Next podcast. I'm Rob Whelan and I'll be sharing the co-host seat today with Geneviève Pilotto. We are jumping into episode number 10 today. So kind of a micro milestone, I guess, if you want to call it. Kind of cool to hit double digits in our episodes. Things are going well here. Today, we're going to be digging into an episode all around the topic of mental health, hence the green lights and my boards in the background there. Thought I'd be on brand there. We have a friend of Jen's joining us on the show today, Sandy, who is a psychologist and is going to help us out, drop some knowledge bombs on the community today. We're going to split the episode into two different chunks of questions. The first being like a little bit more global scene setting type discussion points. And then on the backside of the episode, we are going to dig into some more kind of takeaways, some things that you can apply right now to help you out as you transition out of snowboard season and into whatever you do in the off season. Like I said, Sandy's a good friend of Jen's, so I'm going to actually pass it over to Jen to do our little guest intro.
Sounds good. Hi, everyone. Hi, Rob. I hope you're doing well. It's a beautiful day here in Quebec, blue sky, so it's awesome. I'm stoked that we're recording this episode with Sandy. Sandy is an amazing human, first of all. I'm going to have to say that. And she's a badass snowboarding woman. Also my best friend, a Cassie Soul member. She's definitely snowboarding, surfing, and mountain biking passionate. That's how I would describe my best friend. She's also a psychologist, as Rob mentioned, and she has a baccalaureate in kinesiology, and she's also a member of the Board of Psychology of Quebec since 2006, I believe, Sam. So welcome, Sam. Welcome to this episode. We're really stoked to have you here.
Cool. Thank you so much. I'm really stoked to be here, bestie.
So good. Love that you have a kinesiology degree. I also have a kinesiology degree that's usually hanging right there, but I took it down because you can only see part of the frame, and that bothers the symmetry that I need to have. So I took it down. It'll go back up after the episode.
I didn't know that, Rob.
Yeah.
Me neither. Cool.
So this is a snowboarding podcast, and we were talking a little bit offline here before we jumped on, and you kept kind of hinting about your connection to snowboarding, and I was purposefully not asking the question because I wanted to save it for the episode. So tell us your connection to snowboarding and board sports. It sounds like, with surfing as well.
So I started skiing before snowboarding because it didn't exist. I was put on skis like the rest of my siblings at 2 years old, and then did it a lot until I was 8. 8 to 16 was all about tennis. I competed high-ish level for tennis, so it was tournaments all the time and training. And whenever we got to the mountain from in those years was a treat. It was maybe like 3-4 times a year, but I felt so free. And I loved the snow and the feeling. And I always had a strong connection to gliding on snow. 16 quit competing in tennis. And then my good friend Matt, at the time, he introduced me to amazing sports like skateboarding, windsurfing, and snowboarding. And I completely got hooked. It was life-changing, actually, because it was so vast. And my court went from like being small with lines and a net and very constricted to vast areas like oceans and mountains. And so it was freeing. Windsurfing became kite surfing and then surfing. Long story short. And they're a big part of my life. It's like surfing and snowboarding ever since I was 16. So a long time ago. Mountain biking, when I don't have access to those sport, is a good alternative. And some highlights, I learned to half pipe and freestyle quite early on with can I name drop? Shannon Dunn. She was Olympic. Yeah, she was like few years before the Olympics. She became kind of a friend, and we hung out together. Anyway, so that was fun. Other highlight, I raced a little, but being in a skin suit at minus 25, waiting in line when my friends are riding POW in the trees. Mont Saint-Anne, a moment I remember, I'm like, what are you doing? This is not about, that's not what I liked. So racing, I quit that, and free road. I did my level 1, guys, free Cassie, 92 or 93. So, but I never taught. I taught other sports, but not snowboarding, except for friends. Other big moment was becoming a digital nomad from 2015 to 2020. Just working online as a psychologist and surfing and snowboarding pretty in really cool places. That's about 2015 is when I met my extraordinary friend, Jen. She was my coach for Oakley session, and we hit it
Cool.
off. I was very lucky to that we crossed paths. Anyway, she was a good coach and a good friend ever since. Also met Chewy, so that's why I say I hang out with Cassie friends and the crew here in Mont Tremblant. That's where I live. So now I live like steps away from the hills. I'm really, really lucky. I get to snowboard a lot more when I'm not injured, a lot more than before. So other highlight was Japan. I ticked it off my bucket list since I was 20. So a long time ago, I wanted to ride Japan. And I did last year, and it was a record year. I mean, 2025, February, record year for snow. So I got so lucky. And I got to hang out with Cassie crew members because they were doing sessions. I lived in the same hostel, kind of, and I got to see how they work. And you guys work so much. Like, I admired really like the commitment and the time you put in, and it's a lot. So I see how it can be straining for the mental health. So that's where I can maybe come in and talk about that today.
We're a passionate group of people at Cassie, for better or for worse. So it's funny that you picked up on that, and yeah, I think you're gonna have a lot of things that are gonna help out our crew.
Rob, can I drop in?
Yes, you can drop. Just put your hand up. Dropping next.
Yeah, you talk about your lifestyle, your life journey a little bit, your snowboarding journey and sports in general. But what about your career pathway? How did you end up where you are as a psychologist more precisely?
I think I was always interested in psychology for many reasons, but I studied sports sciences, which then became kinesiology. So because I was really into sports as well. But the area that I loved the most of sports psychology, of sports sciences, was sports psychology. So I was really interested in that, and I wanted to dig deeper than just performance anxiety and like everything. Like I wanted to dig deeper into psychology, and that's what I went to get in my studies in psychology. It's been an eclectic journey. I started in general practice, so GP, CLSC settings, seeing all kinds of cases, which really it's really nice to be exposed to so much. It's a big challenge, but it was nice. Then, of course, when I went to private practice, I worked with athletes because I had a background, a bit of a sports psychology. And so I worked with athletes and coaches as other like anxiety, depression, all kinds of general practice themes. Worked with fertility clinic. Worked with entrepreneurs, which is very close to sports psychology in some ways. So that was super fun. More startups, young startups, entrepreneurs. So a lot of pressure. Um, trauma. More lately, in the past 5 years, I studied trauma, PTSD. I worked with crime victims. So that's deep, very deep. I loved it. Harder, but I got to master. I got to master more skills with the crime victims, of course. And health psychology, which I always loved, and it was my dream to merge psychology and physiotherapy. So I work in a clinic for concussion. So I work in a multidisciplinary settings. I work with physiotherapists and doctors for rehab and the whole like psychology part of rehabbing when concussion becomes persistent, like persistent symptoms of concussions and other kind of neurological difficulties. And that's super exciting because I love to work in teams, and psychology is very like individual and isolated, and sometimes you stay in your cluster. So that's really exciting for me to work in teams.
It's really interesting to hear somebody's career pathway. And, I think it's a real mark of a professional to be able to apply all of the things that you've done along the way. You did this, you did this, you did that. You like a little bit of this, you like that. And then you put it together and you've made the profession your own, which is really inspiring and interesting to hear. But what's most interesting to me, and I think probably to our listeners, is that you kind of always circle back to sport. You're an athlete as a
True.
child. You've done sports all the way through, and it feels like you keep coming back to wanting to apply your career experiences to sport and kind of marrying them, which is kind of neat.
Yeah, merging passion with career, like that. I think that's a strong purpose sense that really shows in the way you're speaking about your career and your journey in general.
Yeah, I kind of felt lost sometimes because I couldn't see the link between everything I was doing. But I knew that one day it would come together.
Life has a way of giving you what you need to
Yeah.
get to where you need to go.
There's actually a link in the stance that I have from in psychology setting in psychotherapy and when snowboarding. It's the humility. Like the elements of nature are like strong, intimidating. You can feel powerless. You have to adapt. And I feel the same with psychology. Like you show up, I show up not knowing what's going to be put on the table that day, and I kind of adapt. And sometimes it's big, it's vast, like people are awesome and they have huge challenges. And so the AWE experience I get from surfing and snowboarding sometimes, and I get also from just being a witness to what my clients are living. So I feel that sometimes it's very similar experience. So that's another
Oh,
connection.
I've ne-
Oh,
I've
Yeah, that's
never
a
heard
ha moment for sure.
I've
That's
no, no, I've never heard anybody call or refer to it as the AWE experience. Is that like an acronym, or were you just emphasizing the word awe, the sense that you get from being in the mountains?
it's actually a scientific construct.
Oh, no way.
People
Oh yeah,
study, yeah, people study that experience of awe, which is something I'd love to study as well. But yeah, the awe is a state of immense well-being.
taking note of that.
I know.
I'm taking
Seriously, I'm
note.
gonna have to dig into this deeper later. That's amazing. Um, so mental health is a bit of an awe topic, and it can go in multiple different ways, and we're going to try to explore some of those. Obviously, we can't dig deeply into every avenue of mental health here. We'll try to keep it in the lane of sport and snowboarding specifically for our audience. But I thought it would be good to start out with just defining mental health, what that means to you in this sort of construct that we're developing thought into. Maybe go into some misconceptions or some
Mhm.
stigmas around mental health, just to kind of set the scene for the rest of the episode.
So mental health doesn't have a universal definition. So different cultures and different disciplines have their own adapt. Like people don't agree what mental health is. So I chose the World Health Organization definition that says mental health is a state of mental well-being that enables people to cope with stressors of life, realize their abilities, learn well, work well, contribute in ways that feel meaningful. So the constructs that are underlined here are adaptability in front of facing adversity, self-actualization, so growing, learning, feeling competent, evolution is part of mental health. And then good functioning. So it's very occupational as well. Like, can you work if you're a worker? Can you study or go to school if you're at school? Can you go about your daily activities? And also in the last contract, you have healthy relationships, meaning, contribution. So those are all part of mental health.
That definition started out with saying something about the state of well-being. And I thought that was really interesting because mental health is often, or at least from the lens that I've seen, like on social media, for example, it is seen like as a negative thing, right? Bad mental health, and we have to talk about mental health, and it's like this huge burden, it feels like, but really it's the opposite of that.
Yeah, I get asked sometimes for like workshops or conference, can you talk about mental health, but don't mention mental health, like say say difficulties, say adaptation. Don't say mental health, like because people are kind of it has a bad press.
That's interesting to hear that like this would actually be a request to talk about it without talking about it, like it's a stigma in itself, as opposed to like no taboo and talk about it would increase awareness of
I know,
mental
right?
health. Yeah.
Yeah, in the entrepreneur fields, like more organization therapy, it's kind of talk about burnout, but don't talk about mental health as if it's you should have more shame if you have mental disorder than burnout. So yeah,
Mhm.
a misconception about mental health versus mental disorder. Mental disorder is having a diagnosis in the diagnosis manual of disorders. So can you be mentally healthy and have a mental disorder? Do you have an answer? Yes, Rob.
Probably, I would
That was the
say
question.
you probably can,
Yeah,
I
kind
would
of
say
hit from
yes.
both sides of the base on that one.
definitely. You can have panic attacks and be healthy mentally. You can have ADHD. You can have be going through a adjustment disorder and still be mentally healthy. You can have well-being, optimism. Those are other markers that we study for to assess mental health, well-being, optimism, satisfaction, self-actualization, quality of interpersonal. I got it. Quality of
That's awesome.
interpersonal relationships. So you can have all that and still have mental disorder. And on the contrary, you can feel empty, have no satisfaction, feel lost, like really lost, and have no diagnosis for mental disorder.
I was just going to kind of tie it back into snowboarding and sport, and maybe we can dig into um, some of the role that either good mental health or gaps in your mental health play in sports and performance.
That was a really good question. That is a really good question because I was asking if there was a correlation and I didn't know the answer. The correlation between mental health and performance. And the answer is no, yes, and no. So no, as in you can have like not be well and not satisfied and still have success, especially short term, like with the right drugs and the right training, you can have really great results and still be unwell, but that's not sustainable. Like if you want a long career, mental health is highly correlated to success. And success as in not necessarily result, but performing at your optimal level. So you can be super happy and perform really well. I mean, happy, that's another construct. You can be very healthy mentally and have performance. But the other, when I said no for the last part, is that high success in sports is a risk for, it can put a lot of strain on mental health. So yes, because of all the pressures, the sponsors, the expectations, you have to be really strong mentally to take in the success. So that's at one point when success becomes really heavy, big and public, you might need to help to cope. But so yeah, it's not necessarily linked, but it is highly correlated at some point in most athletes.
I like the parallel you drew on longevity in sport.
Mm.
Being an older athlete, this this concept of, you know, yeah, I can perform tomorrow and do the thing that I need to do and do it well, but like I want to enjoy snowboarding into
Mhm.
my 70s and keep doing it well, you know? So we can't use the Band-Aid solutions to keep ourselves where we need to be in that moment. So maybe can we talk a little bit about kind of long-term mental health and how to move beyond Band-Aid solutions and like talk about the root of good mental performance in the long term?
Yeah, of course. Because short-term risk, like getting the quick fix, has a big cost that doesn't enable that disables you to be sustainable.
If I can, I think maybe talking about like just awareness of mental health and like awareness of or like being self-conscious and what triggers when you could potentially go down a road where it would lead you to be less mentally healthy and just kind of tie it back to being aware and knowing the resources and or knowing the best practice for yourself.
You nailed it, Jen. I mean, it's recognizing, being aware is the first step to mental health. Know thyself, like know how you work, know what are your stressors, how you react to them, know how to deal with stress. Stress can be good, but at one point it can be bad. So know how to manage stress, know how to regulate emotions that can turn into distress. So knowledge of yourself and knowledge of what's out there that can help, and then practice. Mental health is a lifelong practice.
Hmm. Yeah, it's not like something you can just say like, oh, I'm gonna go and do one session of therapy, for example, with a psychologist, and then that's it. I'm good. My mental health is good. Yeah, that's a fix, and then never put in practice what you've learned or what you actually discovered. Like that's a
Yeah,
like
so
very easy parallel, but
makes me laugh because it happens a lot. Oh, I did 3 sessions. I'm okay. Like I'm fine. I'm set for life. Okay, cool. I'm glad you think that.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
no judgment. Good.
it's work. Um, mental health is, especially if you are recovering from mental health illness and you go to therapy or whatever. There are other things that work, but what really works is discipline, showing up, doing the work. It's like physiotherapy. Like if you have an injury that chronic, let's say, and you go to a session once without doing the exercise. You
Hmm.
understood the concept, but you didn't you didn't get better. You really have to work at it. That's another misconception, that asking for help is weakness and you can do it alone,
Hmm.
and it's easy. So no, mental health is not. It's work.
It's consistency, right? Similar to what we promote in snowboarding for our people going up through the system. Like if you want to reach some of your goals, and it would be the same in any aspect of sports or any sports really, like consistency will bring you the results that you're expecting for yourself or the like the level of fun that you want to reach. I like to call it like that. I think you kind of answer one of your questions. Sorry, Rob, I'm like um, stealing one of your questions, but the second underlying question of that one, where we talk about like the role of mental health, what it plays in sport and performance, was where do people go wrong, actually. So I think we kind of touch on it a little bit with that, by saying that people might go wrong if they become unconscious, or if they're unconscious, not become. I don't know how to say it exactly, but maybe San, you can touch on it a little bit. Like where do people go wrong with um, uh, mental health in sports performance in general, or in sports in general?
I think what comes to mind is athletes are trained to push through the pain and to feel strong when they can like do it on their own and be very independent. So pushing through the pain with mental health you might go down a rabbit hole. So that's where people go wrong.
Okay,
I was sort of
that's
thinking
interesting.
along those lines, like we were talking about consistency is key in our training goals in snowboarding. And I know sometimes consistency means forcing you to go beyond what you should be doing. Sometimes consistency can mean like take the day off, right?
Totally. Recovery is a huge part of mental health. And if we go into burnout or chronic stress and anxiety, recovery is essential for mental health. Like if you don't like there's stress in and then stress out is the recovery. You got the fight or flight system and you need the rest and digest system. You know, do you know these words like sympathetic system versus parasympathetic system? Parasympathetic is the opposite. So you definitely need the recovery, and I can talk about recovery experience later on, like in the research. What are the characteristic of the most recovering experience? Like, what do you have to look for to say, okay, I only have 15 minutes. What am I going to do to recover best?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, overload, overwork is definitely linked to burnout, depression, and anxiety.
That I'll just go back to one point before we dive a little bit deeper into burnout. I have some questions for you, San. What you just said there, like pushing through pain, actually makes me think of trail running, as I've been doing a little bit of trail running in the past few years, and like part of the training is actually learning how to rest, like and how to pull the plug on a training when it's the time to pull the plug at a training. And like, funny enough, I always say that I think I finally really learned how to rest as in my training for trail running. And sometimes like people will say, "Oh, trail running, you're crazy." I mean, I think it takes a certain level of craziness to love like pushing that far, running a 80 kilometers trails race with almost 4,000 meters of elevation gain is could
Insane.
could be seen as insane. But for me, it's like a long meditation on a trail with no pressure of performance, because I'm not an elite and I like do it for myself. But as in training for it, my coach, which is also my brother, always tells me like, how you feel? Like, do you feel any pain? If you feel any pain, you should walk. Or maybe you should take a day off and then just like skip the training and go to the next one. And that journey was really, like I've pushed through pains when I was in the race, but when I was training, I would always learn to run with low impact on my joints. Like absolutely no pain. If I had pain, I had to stop. So yeah, it just made me think that like the physical is really the same as the mental, right? If you're like constantly pushing through pain and you're, I don't know, doing something that makes you anxious and constantly makes you more anxious, maybe you need a bit of a reset or a break. Like I think it's a good parallel.
Definitely. There's so much that you said that are exactly the same as mental health, and like chronic stress. Like stress can become chronic if you don't recover. It's one of the things. And also when you were talking about running, you're so engaged into it and it's such a passion that it's also a recovery experience, not for your muscles, but from your other roles. So you're not you don't have the responsibility of a mother, work, etc. So it gives a break to that role. That role is recovering while you're training other
Totally.
systems.
Yeah, 100%. I can really relate to it.
Yeah.
Also, you know me well.
It's just not you. It's just something that we teach for recovering. Like
For sure.
if you're gonna if you're tired with the upper body, like how do you call it? Leg day, arms day, or
Chest bras. Oops,
chest
sorry. I'll
bras.
drop it. Chest
Chest
bras.
bras, Jean. Well,
Yeah.
once you can do legs and ass. Oh, sorry. To recap.
That's good. No, that's
We're
fine.
gonna keep that.
Yeah, of course we will. I mean, we need to keep some of the
Spontaneity.
genuine banter.
I don't
That's what
know.
Rob said at this.
Wow. Bravo.
Yoo, booyah.
Shopping
Nice.
mind.
You used your word of the day.
All right, so we touched a little bit on burnout earlier, Sand,
Mhm.
and I would like to ask you, how do we recognize it in ourselves? Can you give us a little bit? Can you touch on that topic?
Burnout is a state of chronic work-related exhaustion. You have work burnout, and now they talk about parental burnout. So exhaustion to prolonged stress, and typically characterized by exhaustion, mental distancing, so like cynicism, feeling detached, negative, less engaged with work. Same thing with parental burnout. And reduced efficacy. You're not as efficient, you're not as performant. It's a feeling of not being as performant. Not necessary, it doesn't necessarily show, because you can be burnt out and still be performing. The burnout versus the depression, the burnout will be linked to that occupation. You can be exhausted at work, but then you go play water polo and you're like full of energy. Okay, so it's that, like we were talking about the battery of parenting, and then you go run and you have full of energy. So, and that battery of parenting is reloading. Quand on la branche, recharging. Thank you. The battery is recharging whilst you run. So that's going to help with burnout if you put that battery aside. Not for parenting, you can't really do that. But for work, you do experience that detach you from work. So another interesting thing real quick is burnout. We have, and this is like very emerging science, chronic stress and depression. It's high cortisol that never comes down. You know the hormones, stress hormones? You get a peak in the morning, it's good because it gives you energy to start your day. And then it kind of lowers a bit till the next stress. But with burnout, there's no peak. Like cortisol levels stay really low. And that discovery where it's like it confused the researchers, and we're gonna know more in the next couple of years as research evolves. And so I thought that was really cool.
You talk about parenting and how you need to do things for yourself to be a better parent. Obviously this is not a parenting podcast, but that concept is so applicable to anything in life, right? I mean, Jen and I were just talking about this yesterday. She said, "Oh, you've been really active on Strava lately." Yeah, I need to be out there and running and riding because that's what makes me feel good, so that I can do my other things well too. So it was just kind of interesting how you spoke like directly to that. We just had this conversation yesterday. And so I think that this can be applied to snowboarding as well, right? Find something if you're feeling like wherever you're at in the process is getting you to a stress level or a burnout level. Find something that is going to recharge that battery and give you that drive to get back into your process.
Well said. Exactly. Yeah, that's what we call this in science recovery experiences. where you're totally absorbed in something else and you detach and you feel, anyways, there's more I could talk about later, but yes, I agree totally. And it applies to snowboarding for sure. So
Merci.
how to notice this in yourself? Not to catastrophize because it's just warning signs, but like more irritable, emotional numbness, um, compulsive, anything like scrolling, shopping, doing it more. Change of behavior we see that a lot, like in consommation of psychoactive substances like alcohol or cannabis or other things that if your consumption increases, might be a little red flag here that something's not going on. Like it doesn't happen like in a second from a day to the next, but it slowly creeps in and you don't realize it necessarily. It's hard to realize, so you have to be aware, like we said. Constant tension, more conflicts that you provoke, more emotion fluctuations. Cynicism is a huge one, like I said before. Loss of joy. So reduction of recovery. Like you usually take a weekend off and you come back and you're like fully charged, right? But you took that weekend off, or even like
Uh-huh.
a week off, and you come back and after 2 days you're as exhausted as before you left. Hello, big red flag. Big red flag. And pushing through, it's just gonna make you more tired and then it's gonna be longer to recover. And I'm speaking from
Uh-huh.
experience. You don't have to say that.
Would you say, Sandy, that it's easier to recognize in yourself or in your
Good
colleagues?
question. I guess I would say easier to recognize in other people because it's hard to see that in yourself, really.
Maybe it's easier to have a step back when you look at whether it's colleagues or people you manage
Mhm.
or friends or even family than in yourself, because you have a bit more of a
Yeah,
detached look
even
on
if you
things.
know mental health a lot and you know all the symptoms, it can be like so confrontational, shame inducing that you just don't see it. Mm. So
Uh-huh.
if you have good friends that call you out on it, it can help a lot.
Yeah, something to take seriously and not necessarily to,
Brush off.
how do you say that? Brush
Mm.
off. Yeah. Um, Exam burnout in our world of snowboarding, tied back to a bit of our certification world, where we have people striving to get a higher certification, and it comes with a certain stress, or at least like a certain reality where you need to learn how to manage your stress if you haven't been exposed to those like sport exam before. Um, so there's definitely, Rob, um, we talked about a little bit of a exam burnout and stress from chasing those certification and how to avoid it. Like a part of the question, a part of the answer, I want to answer myself first, because that's something that we're proning as coaches to avoid going in only for the results, but enjoying the process, even if it can be hard to really being told that a few times, like when you're failing, for example. But and we touched on that with Jane's episode a few weeks ago. We dove a little bit deeper in there, but avoiding the chasing the certification, or like focusing too much on strictly the results or the IN, rather than like the fun and the fun that it takes to develop those skills, and enjoying this process that can be longer for certain people, long or short, or yeah, depending where you are. So anyway, how to avoid it? What would be your recommendation, knowing what you know about the CASI system or in sports in general?
There are two things. You talked about stress, and it would be nice to know stress and how it works, like de façon sommaire. It's can give you a lot of power
Mhm.
to know the stress. You can, when you know how the machine works, you have more control over it. So that's one thing, and we can talk briefly about that. And also when self-worth is linked to results, that's like a recipe for misery. That's intense what I just said, but your self-worth, like you said, has to be tied to things that are stable, because results are really unstable. You can't control them, and you're going to have way too much stress, because if you fail, that means you're a failure and you're worthless. That's huge to carry. You know, it's some people have learned that, and that's a burden to carry. It takes a lot of therapy. So yeah, so self-worth can be linked to other things like that are stable, like you're disciplined, you have good recovery, you're courageous, you're kind, you have good values, you show up, you're passionate. You know, all these things you can control, and they can be really used. So it is actually, again, studied, and it's beautiful. We're really happy with the results in science, that self-compassion, being kind to yourself, speaking to you like if you were your best friend and all that, it's linked to performance. And self-criticism and being hard on yourself, maybe it could help short term, like give you like activation and boost like your energy and have like short-term results, but it's not sustainable. Like for long term, it's really highly correlated. So to have your self-worth on things that you can control and to be kind to yourself is linked to higher performance, like optimal performance. So
Mhm.
that's one thing. Quickly, stress is your friend. Okay, so stress, you know that stress activation bell curve. If you're too relaxed and not stressed enough before an exam, you won't perform. Like you won't have the resources, the glucose, the oxygen, everything like to perform well. And if you're too stressed, then your muscles are tense, you're not precise, you can't think like straight. So optimal stress, like just enough stress that you're excited, you feel like it's a good challenge. You're a bit scared, but you're happy at the same time. Like that is optimal. That's what you want to look for. So if you're not stressed enough, which is rare, you can be like, think of things that are really scary or like consequences of failing, let's say. But if you're too stressed, you got to regulate the stress and bring it down. And there are many ways to do that.
In our most recent episode with Sam, he actually talked about how his process for getting to the level 4 was to put himself in the stressful situation, because he doesn't learn well if he's not stressed.
Mhm.
So
So
he
it's like,
could do all the training he wanted to do in an unstressful, unmarked scenario, but he won't perform. He needs to be watched. He wants to be judged. And that's where he finds it in himself to perform.
mhm. It's like, I think it's like finding ways, and it can be different from one individual to the other, I believe, but it's finding ways to make the most out of the stress, like taking the stress as a positive asset and like use the stress and transform it, whether it's like, for me, I always like to kind of call it as my adrenaline of going into something that could stress me. I take it as a positive adrenaline, and that puts me in a positive mindset because I like to do these kind of stuff. But I know that if it flips a little bit the other side, where, you know, like there's going to be some other physical symptoms of like too much stress, then I have to find a way to bring it down, whether it's through breathing or sitting down for 2 minutes and just like doing some visualization or whatever it is. For sometimes it'll just be like go for a run before a presentation, or yeah, things like that.
Definitely. Yes, you said it, like short-term techniques for short-term stress regulation, and you mentioned them like running, could be meditating, could be laughing, crying, that anything that spends the energy that was mobilized by stress. And this brings me to what is stress? It's a physical reaction to adapt to stressors. stress is a good feel, like if it's what happens in your body to prepare to face the threat. So in front of a threat, a mammoth, let's say in the caveman history,
Yeah.
there's a mammoth, you need to fight or flight, and you need a lot of energy for that. So your body goes, okay, I need cortisol and adrenaline. That's what you said, right? Adrenaline. You needed all that to have the energy and the focus. So it helps you focus to make decisions quicker, make better decisions. It helps you to focus the right attention. It gives you a lot of strength in your muscles. So stress is great. It's when it's too much that then it has the opposite effect, and to lower it down, all kinds of things to burn out the energy that was mobilized. Stress management techniques is about debunking the stressor, like debunking the story or the things that make you stressed. And I say debunking the nuts. So nuts, because it's an acronym. In French, we say ciné, maybe you've heard it. So nuts is what is a threat for the psyche, is novelty, something that is new, something that is unpredictable, something that threatens your ego or self-worth, and something that S for nuts, sense of control, something that you don't have control with. And of course, there are situations that are life-threatening. That's something else. But I'm talking about psychological and social stressors. Novelty, unpredictability, threat to the ego, and sense of control. So if you take a stressful situation like an exam, and you have time, you write down NUTS. What is new and how can I make it less new? Never been to this mountain before. It's new. So my brain will create more cortisol, and it's too much. I want to be less activated, just optimally activated. So you reduce the new, or just visiting pictures, like, is it in your mind? It works as well. Seeing pictures and videos of the hill, let's say, or meeting someone that's going to be in your class. Unpredictability is how can you lower unpredictability is, well, everything about like really practicing, like you said about your friend. You put yourself in a situation and you practice, you expose yourself to the stressor, the threat. Eventually your body's going to get used to it. It won't be as unpredictable, etc. Self-worth, link it to something stable, sense of control, study more like, that's not the best example for exams because they're all around getting ready. But if for other situations, it's clearer,
Hmm.
the four factors that you can can work on to modulate your stress longer
I
term.
love it, actually. I think
Yeah?
that's
Okay.
really
That's
awesome to learn about that, and I think that's definitely it's great that you brought it up. Thanks.
Oh, okay.
yeah, I love that
Cool.
nuts, and I like
Nuts.
the T. So this kind of leads into something I wanted to talk about: threat to the ego. They say comparison is the thief of joy, and in
Mhm.
our association, we have 4 levels of instructors, and we constantly are comparing ourselves. I mean, I do it myself to the higher certified, and I want to be there. I want that to be me, and um, but we're really robbing ourselves of like where we're at. You know, we should
Mm.
enjoy being a level 1 or a 2, or whatever you are, um, and so that you can enjoy snowboarding. It's all we need to remember that we're here to enjoy snowboarding. So, from like a performance perspective, how can we, where our worth is tied to our performance, how can we be happy with where we're at in our own process?
That is a great question. And we talked about self-worth earlier, like tying your self-worth to things that you can control, that are that's you, like authentic to you. You're a hard worker, you're courageous, you're playful, you're passionate. That is why you are worth it. You're a human, you're worth it. So bring it back to that, but also envy. You said you're envious of people, or yeah, is that what you said?
Well, I mean, sure,
So
it happens all the time, right? Like we want to be
we want to
like
be that
a
thing.
certain someone who is
Of
performing and doing
course.
all these amazing things, and I'm only teaching side slipping or something. I want to be teaching carving like that guy.
hmm And that is sometimes seen as socially unacceptable or shame-inducing, like I envy what they have.
Mm-hmm.
But it's actually
Evolution.
evolutionary.
Yeah, sure.
It's
Evolutionary.
adaptative. It's evolutionary. It's
Mm-hmm.
actually evolutionary. It's adaptative. It was even you see it in the monkeys. You give a banana to the monkey in a cage, and the next one is screaming. They want the banana too. So we have that in ourselves. If the person gets something that we want, we will have envy, and that is could be it's a spark. It's that little sting. If you interpret it. If you think it's good, then it will be good. It drives motivation. It's it's what you want to be. So you can see it as I have this goal. This feeling is energy. It's resources to put more effort into getting that goal. And do not like hit yourself on the head for feeling envious.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's malicious envy. That talks about a little bit more because there's benign envy, and this is the envy that I talked about, which is it's a good thing, it's a driver. Just take it as it is and just use it to dream harder and to have more energy to get to what you want.
I was just going to say that's perfect, right? Like use where you're at and seeing what you're envious about as fuel for progression. And
Yeah, like you're getting
Exactly.
inspired by people, and those are your aspiration and your dream, and you're doing what it takes to get there.
Yeah. It's a compass that tells you that's what I want.
yeah,
It points
compass.
you.
Perfect.
Compass. That's my future self. That's where I'm going. And malicious envy is when you want the other person to fail, and that can be a very, very suffering, and it's linked to like low self-worth and trauma, some adversity and trauma and lack of support in childhood, and it should be assessed by a professional because it's so shame-inducing. People don't talk about it when they have malicious envy, and they suffer from wanting the other person to fail for them to feel better. And so that's something else, and it's definitely
Hmm.
worth looking into because you're worth feeling like you're worthy. That was a lot of words.
No,
No,
that's
that's
amazing.
perfect.
No, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, we want to. That's not the solution.
Mm-mm.
Mhm.
Totally.
It's just another that's just another sign that there's a lot of pain and that you need help.
Cool. That's what this episode is all about, and we're digging into that.
So it just made me thought, like, sometimes we hear a lot of like, how can I say that? Like labeling and title, like putting a lot of importance into the title or the label, and I think that kind of ties up. That's what it makes me thought of. Like, you're not self-defined by your title. Like, Cassie is important for us. It's part of our community. It's part of our day-to-day, and those are like every time you achieve a greater level, I like to call them, it's a milestone because you worked hard to get there, and that's awesome, and you should be proud. But also, like, every step is a milestone. So even if you're a 2.5 or a 3.5, if you still have parts to work towards, and I think like it doesn't define anybody or any of our candidates of our participant as they're less worth in our association. No, we need level ones, we need level twos, and it's not about even the levels. It's about what you're learning at each of those steps, right?
It's the perfect answer to the comparison is the thief of joy concept that we were developing there, and a really good way to tie up the first half of the episode.
Thanks,
Great.
Rob.
Can I add just a little thing? You can cut it off,
Of
but it's
course.
so important to, like Jen said, to celebrate each little mind, like to celebrate each step. And that actually fuels motivation, persistence, and it helps you bounce back from failure, you know, much quickly if you celebrate the 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 good, everything, every little thing is a success. You can find success in a lot of. You can say, "Oh, it was a successful day," and you can
Mhm.
find success in a lot if you look for it.
Yeah, and like even when it just makes me think, like even when someone is not fully completing as an incomplete results on one certification, uh, they still have wins through that
Yes.
incomplete results. Like they probably have improved some of their skills before they got onto the course and by the end of the course. So even if the results is not what they would have hoped for in signing up for the course, while they still have exposed themselves to that learning experience. And if they choose to come back and retest, they're going to put the effort in. Hopefully, they're going to put the effort in to get there, to reach their
Mhm.
goals. So I always like to tell people, like even if it's hard, like if it's an incomplete, that's a good opportunity for you to learn more and to refine those skills and to just get back stronger and get a result that you truly own because you have done the work to get there.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that incomplete uncovers the gaps in your training.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a good way of saying it.
Take that with you and put that into your training for next time.
Yeah.
Totally.
And incomplete means you might have had some wins as
Totally.
well.
Yeah, part
So you can
marks.
still celebrate those, right?
And you
Huh?
should.
Exactly.
Part marks,
Yeah.
and you should celebrate them. Yeah, absolutely. So here we are at the palate cleanser, in between our
Woo!
two blocks of questions here. And of
Sure.
course, Sandy doesn't know the questions coming at her here, but quick and short answers. Jen, take it away.
All right, San, what is your number one sport after snowboarding? I know the answer, but
It's surfing
oh,
for sure.
surprise!
Big news there.
Nice. Standing sideways wins. Different board. Uh,
But can I take this palate cleanser a little further? Like surfing, hot water, cold water, wetsuit, no wetsuit.
Obviously, like if I can get great conditions in hot water at my age, yeah,
Okay,
for sure, hot water. Maybe a shorty, shorty. That's okay.
but you live in
and
Quebec, so no hot water for you.
your favorite spot that you go often or that you went?
To surf or to
Hmm.
snowboard?
Yeah, what's your
To
favorite spot?
surf? I have many, but I think I need to go back to Portugal.
Okay.
That's I left a part of my heart in Portugal for sure. Yeah. As in like the conditions, the community, the bigger waves, that challenge, and the shape you have to be in to surf in the spots that I'm thinking about in Portugal. And my surfing community is there too. So,
The only thing I know about
Oh.
surfing in Portugal is watching Kai Lenny surf Nazare.
Hmm.
Because I've seen it on
wow,
Red Bull TV. So that's you.
crazy. That's not me.
Next question, favorite food.
Sushi, done.
Okay, last
Easy.
one, best way to chill.
Yes, snowboard. Because what's great about the snowboard for me is I don't have evaluation. It's not work. It's just about fun, play, and growth, like process and pushing myself. But yeah, so I would say surfing and snowboarding
Hell yeah, good answer.
or binging really good TV series. I gotta add that.
Awesome.
That's
Okay,
awesome.
we're hopping into the backside of our episode, and our first topic of discussion here, and like I said at the beginning of the episode in the intro, the backside of the episode is going to be a little bit more like practical, take-home, kind of tactical stuff. I know we talked a lot about that already. Just naturally, I kind of thought that might happen in the sort of global section. But anyway, that's the idea here on the backside. Let's give some people some tools to take home with them. And we're going to talk about injury for the first little topic on the backside here. So, how to manage your feelings around injury, how to deal with all the things that come with injury as an athlete. And Jen, who's dealing with an injury herself at the moment, I'm going to pass it over to you to ask the questions here.
What are some ways to prevent psychological distress after an injury?
There's a lot of things I could say, but I'm going to lean on science. Real quick, the red flags to avoid, and then the Jedi skills. I'll drop into the Jedi skins and Jedi.
Jedi, I'm going to write this down. I'm a Jedi.
Jedi skills. And I took that from my mentor, who's a physiotherapist, and he works a lot with injury, Alexis Goujon. So it's cognitive flexibility. We have 3 Jedi skills that are more important in the science. So cognitive flexibility, pacing, that's a hard one, graded exposure. And the third Jedi skills is pain efficacy. And I put in flexible identity in that, but we did cover it a little. So flexibility is the ability to detach from your thoughts, from your catastrophization thoughts, like my life is over, this career is ending. So to just say your brain is gonna go there sometimes, and it's normal. It's just generating thoughts because that's what it does. Observing your thoughts and not following them down the rabbit hole. So, and another cognitive flexibility is learn, because knowledge is power. Understand your diagnosis, understand the prognosis, understand the treatment, get a team that you can trust, very important, and then trust that team. And stop listening to people, the noise, and stop, because that is linked to a bad outcome, actually. You know, people who research a lot on internet and they excessive information, they seek, it's actually avoidance behavior. And it's linked to bad outcome in the end, because it rises the cortisol levels and stress, and you want to be in the rest and digest, relax mode, because it's a mode that it's rest, digest, and recover. And in that mode, you will heal faster because of many processes. Second Jedi skill would be, I said, pace yourself, like the perfect mix of courage, like expose yourself to pain, whatever the treatment is, but also be patient. So, you know, it's hard sometimes, oh, I went too far, or at one point you get really impatient to get back, and you have to relax, pace yourself. And at the end, sometimes athletes are afraid to get back. They think their injury, like that, is linked to fear and avoidance belief behavior. And those are linked to low outcome. So if you're afraid of pain, afraid of movement, afraid of activity, feeling like afraid of being re-injured, belief that you are fragile and overprotective, well, then you will not heal as fast. And pushing yourself through pain without addressing fear. That's what a lot of athletes do. They're like going to push themselves because I'm afraid, but I'm going to push myself and overcome actually fear. If it's not treated, it will increase pain. So that's really important to do your physical rehab, but also your psychological rehab. Low pain efficacy is my life is on hold. I can't have a meaningful life with this injury. And good pain self-efficacy is feeling that you can have meaningful life despite the pain, despite the injury, despite some invalidity. Like you can gather with friends, you can connect with people, you can learn, you can engage in something meaningful that has nothing, that is not your sport. And it's highly correlated with resilience, the process to adapt when facing adversity. So yeah, the pain efficacy and the flexible identity, which is also in the same Jedi skill, is like, let's say there's stories you can tell yourself. The first one is my identity is collapsed. Everything I made that made me is gone. Then the other story that you can tell yourself is it's just a temporary interruption. That's linked to okay outcome. What's linked to really great outcome in the research is my identity is expanding. I had this opportunity to grow, to learn, to explore other things about my personality, about your passions, etc. So yeah, you like expand your identity. And of course, I'm saying this, but of course, stress, grief, being sad, being angry, that's okay. You gotta normalize those emotions because they are appropriate it's a bad situation at first, and you are allowed to have negative emotions. But it's just to accept them first, recognize them, accept them. You'll more easily go through those negative emotions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's. I mean, I was listening and taking it all for myself at the same time, and you actually also answered to the second question that I had, which was what are the drivers for successful outcomes?
So we're at the stage here now where we've done all these things to recover from our injury. We've detached ourselves from, I'm just a snowboarder, and if I'm injured, it's this catastrophic thing because I can't snowboard. Okay, we've worked through that. We know that that's not true. So now it's time to get back to sport. How do we get back into it? How do we reintegrate?
So there's again, I'm going to lean on science. There's a construct that's called readiness. And it's about being ready physically. So your physio will tell you if you're ready physically. And it's also about being ready mentally. And sometimes you start, let's say I have an example, like an athlete who tore their shoulder doing like monkey bars, which is great. But anyways, and so they were back, they were all rehabbed, but as soon as they tried monkey bar, the pain came. And it was not pain from injury because the injury is gone, but the predictive mind sent alarm system that happens a lot. You have pain when there's no injury. So it has a name. So that
Readiness.
person had the readiness, but having pain when there's no more injury is it's another concept. So that person had to retrain because of the fear, and also without fear, brain associated monkey bars to danger and gave the signal pain. So they had to retrain to be relaxed and to go and do the monkey bars very, very slow, like gradually. And eventually the brain learned that it was safe. And readiness is the same. You got to gradually expose yourself to the movement, to the hill, and gradually until you feel safe and not push through, but not avoid. Avoidance leads to more fear. Exposing yourself without dealing with the fear, just pushing through, leads to more anxiety and fear. So it's again like finding the balance, the optimal level of activation, fear, and linking that to a new corrective experience. The body will live, oh, I did this and I'm not in pain. So it will change its prediction. And that will make you feel safe and ready emotionally and psychologically to to go back to your sports, and often stronger than before because you've learned so
For
much.
sure, that's a theme that we've talked about before. Is coming back from from an injury stronger,
Mhm.
which I find really interesting. So, we generally talk about that from a physical standpoint, but you're talking about coming back mentally stronger, which I think is really cool and really applicable to what we're talking about today, which is awesome. Building on that, mental strain is something that a lot of our instructors and evaluators deal with. A lot of us spend a lot of time on the road through the winter season, away from like a typical routine. Um, what are some ways that um, we can minimize that mental strain of like an irregular schedule, I guess, and meeting certain demands at work?
I'm on the road a lot with Essie, and well, on the winter time especially, and even on the off season with some of the industry meetings and stuff. And definitely to keep my mental sanity, for me, it's about balancing first, not being away all the time, but when I'm away, keeping a certain routine. So I have my own personal routine when I'm away. That's not exactly the same routine as at home, but for example, I have the same breakfast. I travel with my Ninja Max blender, and I'm not sponsored by Ninja, so it's not a promo product placer. Uh, I really like this. This was like a game changer because I can have my smoothie in the morning just like I have when I'm at home, and it's I can have it from anywhere really. So it doesn't take much, and it's like that puts me in like a good start of my day. And that's only one of the habit, but there's also like some other things that I'll do or bring with me. I travel with my yoga mat, and I have at least like a minimum of 5 minutes of yoga before the day. Some of the routine. Or for example, when I go to a certain location, I know what's in this grocery store. And like one of the first thing I do when I get there is like, okay, I install my room and everything. And then I go to the grocery store and shop for the things that are necessary for my well-being throughout the week. And I cook my own lunch. Lunch is most of the time now. I never really eat at the cafeteria while I'm traveling, like the ski resort cafeteria. So I have control on the food, and that's like a really big part for me to manage my sanity while on the road.
Hmm. When you're doing yoga, Jen, are you doing it from the mindset of flexibility or from a meditative approach?
Oh, I'm more in the physical state for sure. Like, I guess like the one of the positive outcome from it is it puts me straight away in a good mood because I start getting some flow and good, like it's just a good slow way to start the day. But I like the feeling in my body, just like stretching it out. And I do it with music, and I'm not following any videos or whatever. It's more like an intuitive yoga based on what I know about yoga. So it's just like a few pause, and it's not always the same. And it's kind of a mini dance in the morning to get my body prep for the day. So I would say that's mostly physical, but the benefit is mental.
Yeah,
I
totally. I
feel
mean,
I feel prepared.
it's
you know.
funny because you talked about food and you talked about physical fitness, um, which both tie directly into your mental well-being, right? Like you're traveling, it's hard to get vegetables and fruit, especially in a restaurant. But you've checked that box, right? By making your smoothie yourself, you know what's going in there, and that's going to put you in a better state to perform from a mental aspect. And then same thing with your physical prep for the day and your yoga. It's putting you feel good. You said it. I feel good when I do it. And when you feel good, everything's all of your systems are gonna work better. So I think
Yeah.
that's really cool.
For sure. Yeah, and there's also like some other pro tips that would be allowing yourself to also just do little things that like you would do at home, like keep watching that TV show or go to bed at the same time or like some of those little things, like it's not like sometimes there's more opportunities to go out or like do stuff with a lot of people, and at some point, even if you enjoy being surrounded by your friends and your community, in this case the Cassie community, it's also good to have some moments of downtime, which can be a little bit harder to find in those events because there's always lots going on, and you're always really excited to see your friends, your colleagues, and you want to make the most of it. But sometimes like just taking those little downtimes, even if it's half an hour, whether it's in the morning or in the evening or at lunch, like just not speaking for a good 15 minutes or ride the chairlift alone for, like those little ones gives you those breathing moment to reconnect with yourself. I would say, yeah. At least in my case, when I like in my roles, I have lots of things to think about in terms of logistics and yeah, the way we roll the events and everything. So uh, I need those to recharge before I go back to yeah, the working stuff.
It's such a complete answer. It's got like recharge some batteries while, like investing in others, downtime, relaxation. They're all recovery experiences. And routine, like it reduces novelty. You also prepare, like, okay, I'm gonna go to that place. That's when like routine, you know exactly what to do. So you reduce unpredictability. So yes, your stress levels are optimum. You're optimistic. You're satisfied. All your needs um are met. Like your basic needs that you can control are met. So that's beautiful. It's very rich that you can, with all the experience you have, that you can share that with people who are just starting in the industry and others. Maybe.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Well, and it makes me think too that like when you travel in places you don't know, when you get to there for the first time, so there's gonna come the adaptation and adaptability skills of uh, being prepared that your routine is not going to look exactly the same, but also being prepared to create that routine for that 10 days you're going to be there, or for that month you're going to be there. And it's like finding it, accept that it's going to take you a little bit of time to find those things that you'll feel comfortable in, but spot them, and it can be as
Mhm.
little as getting to know a new store. And this, I can relate to this winter when I went to Korea. I traveled with my blender and there was no coffee machine in my room, so I found a place where there was a good coffee, and I went back there every morning because it was kind of a no-brainer. I just wanted to start my day with that coffee, and I was speaking to the guy managing the store every morning, and I learned some words of Korean before I get down so I can say hi and like wish him a good day or thank him, which I thought was pretty funny. It was kind of a good start of the day where it was just for 10 days. And then the last day I went to see him and I said like, bye, I'm going, like, maybe I'll see you next time. But it became kind of my routine. Like I just got up, get done, grab my coffee, go back, make my smoothie in my room. And cause I found the store where I could, um, yeah, keep that a little bit. So adaptability would be key to
Mhm.
maintain it
Mhm.
when you're on the road and when you're on places where you don't know. And like the preparation will look a little bit different, but being open to do a little bit more of that research or connect with the locals. It really ties back to what you mentioned earlier, I think, earlier in the first part of the episode about like preparing.
Mhm. And also you said there's a lot of gold nuggets in what you said. You you feel uncomfortable at first, and that is so normal. Like to accept to be uncomfortable for a little while because um that gives you energy, right?
Yeah.
stress levels, getting energy to adapt, to see the threats and to adapt to the threats. And then the lemon was no coffee. I hate that. But then you turned it into lemonade. Like not only you found coffee, but you connected with someone. You learned like on a deeper level, and you talked and you learned words, and so that's cool.
Yeah, getting
Really
out of the comfort zone to, like we always say, that's how you grow and stuff. And I think like travel, that's why so many people really like traveling as well, because
yeah.
you're often going to get out of your comfort zone. And in those countries, like you can always put things in perspective. Like in a lot of the places we travel for snowboarding, at least in our CASI industry, is um, you'll find comfort where you want to find comfort. So it's not
Right.
about like, it's not going to be, oh, I'm not threatened for life. I'm traveling
Right.
there and I know that like I might not know where I'm going to go, but I'm going to find out. And like, that's
Right.
that's cool. That's like a mission and it's fun. Like, yeah.
That puts it into perspective really well. Like, okay, I'm at a different resort this week, but there's for sure going to be coffee there. It's like,
Might
okay,
not be exactly the same coffee as at home,
you're
but it's
gonna
going to be good.
you're gonna be okay.
Yeah. Exactly.
So just chill out, find the coffee. It might be uncomfortable for a little bit, but you're gonna come out on top.
Yeah.
Love it.
Switching a little bit, not switching topics, but linking to how to manage end of the season blues. For example, your identity is tied up to snowboarding, like a lot of our identity when we practice that as a full-time job or as a full-time passion. It's really tied up to snowboarding, and when we lose that in the summer or in the spring, how to manage that. We hear that a lot from people, like, oh, I get a little bit of not a depression, but like a seasonal blues.
When I read that, I was wondering, does Jen and Rob, do they still experience that? Yeah.
Yeah, I
Well,
do for sure.
Huh. Okay.
we had
I,
a bit of a chat yesterday over the phone, Rob and I, actually, about that. Like, I would say that um, I don't really have the season blues anymore because I replace it by other stuff. Like I'm always sad when snowboarding finishes, but I'm also really happy to start the other thing, and I appreciate the winding down period a little bit and just like being a bit more at home and enjoying the sunny days and starting to roll on my bike. This season for me, my blues is a little bit different because my season ended up on an injury. So uh, definitely like it's not the same landscape that for my next many months that are coming, but I'm trying to be as resilient as I can and like learning from it and exactly like doing those best practices you mentioned. Um, and so the blues is a bit different, but I still right at the moment replace it by other stuff, and I think that's kind of key. But Rob, sorry I interrupted maybe your flow about like from your answer there. You
no, it's
started
all
to
good.
think
It's all
about it.
good. I snowboarding's always been number one for me, so I'm always sad when it goes. But like you said, I'm always happy to get on the bike. Um, I accomplished some goals this winter that made the end of season like a little bit easier. I came out of like, okay, I did what I came for this year, and I feel really good. It was the end of April. I'm like, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to get on the bike, but still, I miss it. So it's and we're not alone in these feelings. And so I think that for our audience, it would be cool to, you know, I mean, we talked about it earlier in the episode, right? Is not to define yourself so much by one thing. So maybe that's the answer. Um, find
Yeah, but
excitement in what comes next. I don't know.
but sometimes like you said, it's number one. It's the most exciting. It's irreplaceable. So yes, you can find other things, and you're not gonna. It's not life threatening, but you can do the first thing that we said is recognize that it's hard. Have self compassion for yourself. That it's not the end of the world, but it stings a little. and you're gonna miss it. And that part of you is not, you're not gonna be on board until, next November, and for other people next December or February. So
Hmm.
I would say, like, how do you get how do you stop blues? I don't think it's possible to stop it, but let's traverse it. Is first step is recognize that you're sad, that you're down a little, and to know that you're not alone. Like you said also earlier, other people have the same thing. So that helps us as well. Like, I'm
Hmm.
not alone. It's a common humanity emotion, humanity or writer's emotion.
Hmm. And it's not even really about the sport so much as it is the kind of lifestyle that it brings to us. Yeah, I feel like that's what we kind of miss. Like, we go from traveling a lot and we have all these really cool social engagements and all of this community that lives around snowboarding, which is just the vehicle that gives us those experiences. I speak romantically about this way too much, so I'll try to stop myself. We're traveling, we're going all these places, and then all of a sudden it's like I'm in the office 5 days a week. Which is like a lot of people's reality all the time. But it just kind of adds to the feeling of, oh, the season's really over. Like I've been on my computer a lot.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah, I see it kind of as for me, like there's so many projects and stuff that I want to dig into, like so many things on my list. So when it slows down, it takes me I acknowledge that it's a change of rhythm. And I really appreciate it. Like I appreciate I can start my day a little slower. I don't have to dress up and go snowboarding. I can just enjoy a coffee out in the sun before I get started to work. And I'm gonna dive into another topic. Like I'll use my brain a little bit more well, not that I don't use my brain in the winter, not what I'm saying, but I'll I'll use some other areas of my brain to create some stuff or like work on some material that needs my creativity to be full on, things like that. I don't know. I'm rambling. I don't know exactly where I
This
was
is
going, but
good. We're here to
yeah.
ramble.
It's really, really good. So, um, Rob, you mentioned community, like it stops all of a sudden, and you mentioned being outside, like you're
Mm.
more on your computer. So those are things like, do you have to be on your computer 5 days a week?
Well, it depends on who's listening to the podcast.
well, well, I can say by your Strava that you're making a good use of your off times to compensate and go outside. But I can totally understand what you mean by you're not on snow teaching a snowboard course. You're in front of your computer working on some of the stuff that will allow you to teach more snowboard course later on.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't want to complain about it too much. Being someone who makes his living in snowboarding full time year round, regardless of whether there's snow or not. But definitely there's a mental shift that happens, right?
Yeah, and that's not to be minimized. Um, it's a lot about what brings you joy that's gone. So I was just wondering if there's some way to incorporate it, like going outside and not being like so much on your computer if you can. And then community. Is there any way you can like meet up with the gang? I think you do, eh?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Are you
Yeah.
around, Rob? No, but I'm saying maybe you guys could. I think you have like a mountain biking schedule during the summer, like you have things where you meet up, but those are super important to feel the belonging. So if you don't belong, like you don't see the people, your crew for 6 months, it's too much. You can see yourself in another doing other sports
Hmm.
or other fun activities. That helps a lot
Totally. Yeah.
too.
Staying connected with the community is like super
Mhm.
important. Um, and I think too, recognizing that if you have this community in snowboarding, you probably have that community in other places as well too, right? So it gives you have this
Yeah.
opportunity to reconnect with your bike crew or your skate crew or whatever it is.
Oh, that's a good point.
This sort of leads us into work-life balance, actually directly into work-life balance. And, I often ask myself if it really even exists. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on that, Sandy.
Does it really exist? Balancing is you're always trying to get back into balance, right? You're off balance, you get trying to get back. It I don't know what it means actually, but if you're doing too much of the same thing, you'll get tired. So switch it up as much as you can, and I'll repeat the recovery experiences. The fact that the things that they have in common is actually an acronym, which seen by now that I like acronyms. It's drama,
Oh.
D for detach, R for relaxation, M for mastery, the other M is for meaning, and then A for affiliation or community or belonging. So if you have those in your mind and you plan that you have to plan those experiences, and they can be 10 minutes, like just calling a friend for 5 minutes or writing to a friend, you feel connected. It can be like that you can have like in your toolbox 10 minutes recovery experiences and week-long recovery experiences, like, and everything in between. And yeah, but is there a perfect life balance? I haven't found it, and if somebody does, well, let me know. Because life goes fast and there's a lot going on, right? So be kind to yourself. Vas-y.
I love that you love acronym first. That's something I'm going to say because this is also something we really like. And Cassie, we have so many acronyms in our reference guide. So I have been noting all of them on my paper notes to put them here on my office to practice that detachment here and there and that relaxation. So that's awesome. I do think that maybe on that topic, like work-life balance, when something that could be hard is when your passion is also your work. I do think that could trigger a lot of us actually would feel that, whether it's for snowboarding in our case, or for anything else, you're more prompt to really dive yourself into, and I wouldn't see myself, for example, like working, like I think this is the best I could hope for, like make my passion of a work. But there's also that kind of shifter where sometimes I'm like, not that I'm tired of hearing about snowboarding, but sometimes I need a bit of a mental break about snowboarding. Like I need to speak about other things and do other stuff to be able to get back at it, because that's also my work. And I would say that's kind of, and now I relate it to myself, but that's the work-life balance. Like I know myself that sometimes if some people will reach out and get deep into the technical side, because that's part of my role, and talk about like a very specific technical topic, and it's awesome and I love it, but sometimes I need to, like, okay, I don't know, it's 10 o'clock at night, I might not open that chat, and I might just press pause and get back to it when I'm working and when I have more space for it. Yeah, and that would be my example of that's the work-life balance.
Setting boundaries.
Yeah. In short, thanks.
Setting boundaries and really separating within snowboarding, you can separate like the roles.
Exactly. Yeah, when I go snowboarding with my kids, we don't talk about those stuff. It's like pure, just I'm enjoying, I'm having fun like usual. Like I love having fun on my snowboard, even when I work, but yeah.
Yeah. Remembering why you snowboard as well. Like why you're a writer, why you're a teacher, why you're an evaluator. And then what is the core like motivation? Think about it. And today, like, okay, I love feeling free. I love whatever, feeling mastery. Like, what is the core why and motivation? And today, that's what it's about.
There could not be a better way to finish this episode than with a why.
Exactly. I was just thinking the same.
In Cassie, we're all about what, why, and how. And so finding your why is what's going to bring you balance. That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that, all of your acronyms. Just a call to action to our listeners here as we wrap up. This was a big episode, probably the longest one we've done. There's so much to dig into. And I feel like we just breezed over a lot of it. So we'd love to hear from our listeners, our viewers. Let us know, like, is there stuff that you heard in this episode that Sandy started to talk about, and then we cut her off with another question that you'd want to hear more about? We can do a part 2. I think that would be really cool. I mean, injury, for example, was one that we just kind of scraped the surface of. It could be a whole episode on its own. So let us know. That would be amazing.
Thanks, San, for accepting our invitation. Thank you so much. I think it was really relevant to all of us, and it was awesome. Like the way you explain things, it's very clear, and it definitely shed some lights on a lot of those aspects and questions that we had for. So I'm glad that it went long, because I've learned a lot from that episode as well. So thank you for committing and accepting. And I hope we can see you again in this Dropping Next podcast.
I'd love to come back. Thanks for having me. I love to put the bridge between the what knowledge and action, and bring it to and if it can help one person, great. I'm happy with that. So you both are lovely.
When can people find you and connect with you?
I would say LinkedIn, it's Sandra Taddeo, or Board of Psychology of Quebec.
Thanks so much, everybody, for tuning in. Please don't forget to leave us a review, subscribe to the show on all of our different platforms, or whichever one that you listen on. And hit us up, podcast at cassie-acms.com with any questions, any feedback. We would love to hear from you, and keep building this thing stronger. Sweet. I guess
Thanks,
that's
Rob. Have a good bike ride.
I better go ride my bike now.
Thank you.